English used to have defined benefit plans for a long time, and there were a lot of advantages for companies to put money into defined benefit plans. And indeed, they were originally set up in order to get the best and the brightest to work for the company, to help people for giving them benefits for long service, and basically as a recruitment tool, just like that man said to me, we'll give you a pension. And companies put a lot of money in their pension plans, and it was very tax advantageous for the companies to do it. So in the 70s and 80s, the British pension plans are among the best in the world. The world changed. People got angry at pension funds being overfunded. They thought corporations were hiding money there. The tax advantages, this is England, started to be cut. It wasn't so tax advantageous to put money in. You couldn't get tax deductions. There was a cap getting to be on putting money in pension funds. And then what happened? The economy changed, and companies started to go bankrupt. And when they went bankrupt, their pension funds went bankrupt. And people who were retired and were getting money every month, all of a sudden it stopped. People were not yet retired, but still putting money in their pension funds, that stopped. And they were essentially stripped of their pension benefits. What does the government do? They have a reaction, and they had a very good reaction, I have to say, in the early 2000s. They thought about those naked pensioners. We used to call them the naked pensioners. And they thought about the fact that this is a problem that was going to happen because the overfunded pension funds were now becoming the underfunded pension funds. And so they set up the regulatory structure that we have today, which essentially is a two-part structure. First, we have something called the pension regulator, and then we have something called the pension protection fund. And the pension regulator has a lot of power. It has powers, or it's meant to have powers, so that it can look into companies' pension funds and see how funded they are or underfunded. And if they're underfunded, force the company to put more contributions in over a period of time in order to fund it up. The pension regulator has these powers to compel companies to fund their pension plans, to ensure that the plan isn't weakened by a corporate transaction, to demand information from pension funds, to freeze the pension funds at some point, and to remove trustees. That's their powers. But if all of that fails and the pension fund goes bankrupt, then it comes to us to sort out the poor pensioners who have lost their pension. So what do we do in the Pension Protection Fund? We collect right now, and have been since 2005, a levy from every defined pension benefit plan in the country. And that levy is like an insurance premium. And actually, at the moment, it's called a risk-based levy because it's not just one certain amount of money per pensioner per plan, but it has more to do with how well funded the plan is and how secure the covenant is. So we collect this money and we put it into our fund. That's the levy. So that we collect the money, then we run the money. Now what happens with that? That's second tier. We have a pot of money, which is the levy. The other pot of money is when a pension fund goes bankrupt, as you all know, there's still money in the pension fund. It's just probably not 100% funded. So whatever it's got, it comes into us. And we look at what it's got, and we decide if there's enough money for the pension in the pension fund to pay out the pensioners, we send it out. They buy themselves out. But more often than not, there's not enough money. So whatever they've got comes into us. So we've now got this pot of money, which is essentially the insurance premiums, the levy, and it's the money that came in from the bankrupt pension funds. So we collect the money, now we've got the money, and we run it. We run it as an investment manager. We have a very, very sophisticated and excellent fund management operation, and I'll talk about that in a little while. Essentially, we put 70% in bonds. We put about 10% in global equities, and we put about 20% in alternatives. We've done really well. At the moment, we are 100% funded, as of around about 100% funded. It's not definite now. We haven't laid our accounts in front of Parliament, and we really can't say what the amount is until we do. But okay, so the Pension Protection Fund, what does it do? It collects money, it runs it, and then it pays it out to those pensioners who would have had money in the defined benefit plan, but it's fallen over. And it pays it out to about 90%, not 100% for people who are retired. So that's the back end. That's the Pension Protection Fund. We say we pay the right people the right amount at the right time so that they will have retirement security even though the pension fund has essentially gone under. At the moment, we have $22 billion in liabilities. There are 12 million people in 6,500 pension schemes. The PPF is currently paying compensation to 57,800 people each month. It's pretty good. We have 431 plans that have transferred into the PPF, and we've paid out since inception about $750 million, about $6,000 per person per year. And our fund is about $18 billion at the moment. So we're a pretty serious player in the asset management business. So that's where we are now. We have a system that's working well, and the PPF is a success. We believe, sadly, that the DB universe is A, limited, and B, is going to slowly but surely turn into a DC universe, that we will know how many pension funds exist, that we will know how many pensioners exist, and therefore by 2030, we will know what our outstanding liabilities are going to be. And we will run our money in this conservative but sexy strategy that I was talking to you about before, so that by 2030, we will have enough money in our fund in order to pay all of the potential claimants on the pension fund. And that's the goal. In the meantime, the other things that are going on in the UK is we've set up something called NEST. NEST is, well, unfortunately, it's in the DC world, because NEST is the National Employers Savings Trust. And the other problem, remember me, when they offered me the money or the pension fund, I took the money? Well, lots of people are like that, and lots of people are like that. So we're now trying to auto-enroll people to make it a negative option. Employers will have to put money in a DC plan, and employees will have to opt out rather than opt in. And so we think that 80% of the people will be in defined contribution plans instead of 80% being out. And NEST is the defined contribution plan that the government's setting up. But employees don't have to do NEST. They can go into other sponsored plans. And we hope there'll be a competitive environment of things that help employees, which will go forward. So that's what's going on. One more thing that's important about what's happening in the UK. Remember that good pension minister who we really like? He's looked at the state pension. And what we had in the UK in the state pension was a mess. There's a basic state pension, then there's an additional state pension, then you get a lot of means testing kinds of state pensions, then you get a winter fuel allowance, you get a bus pass, which we all love, all of us 65-year-olds and over. We think the bus pass is really good. And there's a myriad of things that you get when you get old. But nobody can nobody can quite figure it out, and there's a disincentive to work, because there's this means tested possibility, which means that the more you work, the less money you get. So our good pension minister, Steve Webb, has said there should be a single state pension. And the single state pension, which is just announced recently, will be about $220 a week. And everybody will get it, and we won't have this myriad of regulation that nobody can understand. And I'm a big believer that that's something that's very important, is that there will be a single state pension, which is not a lot of money, but it's enough to live on. My personal theory about how to solve the pension crisis is three. You have to work longer, you have to save more, and you have to expect less. But one thing I would like to say, work is, from my opinion, is the answer. Work longer. Working is a privilege. We are living a lot longer than we did years before. Working is what keeps us active and what will keep money in the bank. And what society ought to do is to provide more employment for older people. Respect wisdom, respect experience, keep people in the workplace, retire them later, and then we will not have to pay such a long period of time in retirement, and people will have saved as they ought to. So it's more about looking at the generation and finding a way to keep them in employment. That, I think, is the real solution to the pension problem.